The door. Nobody was allowed to open. Everyone in town believed the old red door at the end of Oak Street should never be opened, and nobody could explain why because the warning had been passed down for so many years that people stopped asking questions and just accepted it as fact. Parents warned their kids to stay away, and teachers mentioned it in class, and even visitors were told not to go near it because something terrible was supposedly hiding behind it. Then one summer, a college student named Ryan came back home and asked a question nobody had asked in decades: what is actually behind the door? The town laughed and told him not to find out, but Ryan couldn't understand why thousands of people were scared of something they had never even seen. The next morning, word spread fast, and a crowd gathered to watch as Ryan walked toward the door, and with every step, people became more nervous, and some even begged him to stop because they were certain disaster was coming. Ryan reached for the handle, and the crowd held its breath, and the street became completely silent, and slowly, he pulled the door open. Nothing happened. No scream, no explosion, no curse. No monster. Behind the door was a tiny, dusty storage room with an old broom, a broken chair, and a pile of newspapers that had been sitting there for decades. The crowd stared in disbelief, and then an elderly man stepped forward and admitted the truth. His grandfather had started the rumor years ago just to keep children away from a dangerous construction site nearby. And when the construction site disappeared, the warning stayed, and generation after generation kept believing it without ever checking for themselves. And in that moment, the entire town learned something they should have known all along. Because sometimes the strongest beliefs aren't built on evidence. They're built on repetition, and the longer a story survives, the harder people think it is to question it. And sometimes all it takes is one person willing to open the door everyone else was afraid to touch.